Check out carmarshal.com. The link is in the description. They help support us.
New study shows the party drug ketamine relieved suicidal thoughts in just hours. A new study published this month in the American Journal of Psychiatry showed that during in-hospital trials, ketamine relieved suicidal thoughts almost immediately. By Matt Agarist, December 25, 2017. Ketamine, also called esketamine, which has a reputation behind the scenes as a party drug, known as Special K, for its sedative and sometimes hallucinatory effects, is currently most widely employed as a veterinary tranquilizer, though the Food and Drug Administration first approved human use in 1970. With off-label uses including treatment for pain, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder, among others, ketamine's latest FDA approval will be testing as breakthrough therapy in treating major depressive disorder. According to the CDC, from 1999 through 2014, the age-adjusted suicide rate in the United States increased 24%, from 10.5 to 13.0 per 100,000 population, with the pace of increase greater after 2006. Over 41,000 people kill themselves in the United States every year. Now, a new study published on December 5, 2017, in the American Journal of Psychiatry appears to back up the idea that ketamine could also be effective as a fast-acting treatment to prevent this rise in suicides. Advertisement. According to a report in Gizmodo. In the study, depressed patients who got an infusion of ketamine reported rapid relief from suicidal thoughts, many as soon as a few hours after receiving the drug. Doctors recruited 80 clinically depressed volunteers who checked themselves into the New York State Psychiatric Institute to take part in a randomized trial. The volunteers, all actively having suicidal thoughts, received either the sedative midazolam, intended as a control, or a low-dose infusion of ketamine. The patients were then tracked for at least 6 weeks while they underwent a standard course of psychiatric treatment. By the first day and even hours in, more ketamine patients responded to their treatment and experienced fewer suicidal thoughts than the control group. Some of this was due to the drug improving people's depression, but it also seemed to have a direct impact in relieving their ideation. Better still, this reduction lasted throughout the remaining 6 weeks, likely because of the added treatment they were getting. The improvement was so dramatic that the researchers decided to dose patients who failed to respond to midazolam with ketamine a few weeks into their regimen, and these patients showed similar improvement. It does suggest ketamine treatment can help someone who's in a really serious suicidal state get out of that quickly, study author Michael Grubaum, an associate professor of psychiatry at Columbia University Medical Center, told Gizmodo. Certainly, it would be a relatively simple treatment to provide at hospitals. Read more. Mainstream media finally admits mass banker suicides were likely a vast criminal conspiracy. Though expanding potential uses for ketamine, widely considered little more than a party drug, marks necessary progress, cannabis activists should immediately note the glaring hypocrisy by the FDA, DEA, and pharmaceutical industry. As TFTP previously reported, like ketamine, cannabis has proven time and again enormous flexibility for treating a full spectrum of illnesses, disorders, and psychiatric conditions. Yet less than 1 week prior to fast-tracking ketamine for FDA approval, the DEA, which falls under the FDA's regulatory control, humorlessly announced it would not move to reschedule cannabis from its current status of a narcotic substance lacking any potential medical benefit. Innumerable anecdotal accounts from doctors, researchers, and patients show cannabis, both smoked and in its derivative cannabidiol form, performing what would otherwise be called miraculous healings of conditions ranging from chronic seizures to PTSD. However, cannabis remains classified by the U.S. government as having no medical use. Tens, if not hundreds, of thousands of patients successfully treated with cannabis in the U.S. alone would vehemently beg to differ. Beyond the obvious benefits, cannabis has provided directly to drug war profiteers, the for-profit prison industry, police, and the government's militarization handout, the unfathomable total local and state governments reap in court fines and costs, etc., ad infinitum. The biggest benefactor is the elephant in the room, Big Pharma. In fact, if any doubt lingered about the connection between government and the insidious pharmaceutical industry, the contrasting decisions in failing to reschedule cannabis versus green-lighting the sometimes party drug ketamine handily annihilates any uncertainty. Read more. The biggest killer of U.S. troops in the Middle East is not ISIS, it's suicide. To call the decision hypocritical would not only be an egregious understatement, it would obfuscate the glaring relationship between Big Pharma and its lapdog government overseer. Of course, this isn't meant to downplay the importance of loosening controls on ketamine, since the drug certainly provides relief for many who desperately need it. But the criticism stands as further validation. The drug war was never about drugs, it's about the profits via the politicization of control. Decades of inexcusable false propaganda from the government, first in the attempt to essentially criminalize black people and hippies, then through scaremongering on the non-existent dangers of cannabis, have left an untold number of people without critical treatment the plant could provide. Beyond even that, these arbitrary disproportionate handouts by the government further prove how useless the war on drugs turned out to be. Were the government actually interested in preventing injury, the drug war would end entirely with it, incidentally allowing doctors to treat patients with whatever substance they choose, halting violent and deadly raids on otherwise law-abiding civilian homes, emptying the prison industry's compartmentalized, overcrowded, and equally problematic penitentiaries. Many military operations abroad would need to be abandoned, and removing the so-called need for the government's military surplus. Handouts to police departments across the country. But it isn't interested in that because the corporate plutocracy masquerading as our government must feed its gluttonous lust for profits, or it will simply wither and die. And the legalization of cannabis, ketamine, and every other so-called illicit substance pose an existential threat to the state and its cohorts.
Your brain's constantly pinging noise. You want to do anything you can just to turn it off. It's saying, yesterday, 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 tomorrow, tomorrow, yesterday, yesterday, work, 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 girlfriend, girlfriend, girlfriend. And all this noise is just pinging all day long. You take ketamine, it's almost like taking your consciousness just out of that completely. All this noise is gone and there's just complete and utter stillness.
Ketamine is a clinical anesthetic that's probably better known as the club drug Special K. Taken at high doses, it can send users into a K-hole, an out-of-body experience that's been described as a kind of mental paralysis. But take the right dose under the right conditions, and it could be a lifesaver for patients with treatment-resistant depression.
I know people who have been on the brink of suicide. Chair, I was pretty nervous, certainly didn't know what to expect.
He's about to get his 8th IV infusion.
I don't think anybody should be afraid of it. You're not getting handed pills in a club by somebody. You're going to a professional and you're in a space that's safe.
How are you doing? Ketamine is the most important breakthrough in the treatment of depression in decades.
Dr. Stephen Mandel runs the clinic.
We give them a very gradual infusion over 50 minutes on the first infusion, 55 minutes on subsequent infusions.
Despite its reputation as a party drug, ketamine is primarily a cheap and effective painkiller that's used all around the world. Now, more and more, it's being administered off-label to treat severe cases of depression.
The other antidepressants take weeks to months to have an effect. Ketamine kicks in within hours to at the most a couple of days. Are you getting enough medicine?
Yeah.
Most antidepressants change levels of serotonin neurotransmitters, but ketamine might alter glutamate receptors instead. While that may be the key distinction, doctors still aren't exactly sure how the treatment works.
We don't know how any of these medications work on the brain. We know as much about ketamine as we do about any of the others. We do know that ketamine tends to cause new growth in the brain. It literally enhances neuroplasticity.
Pretty quickly, I mean, within 5 minutes, you're blasting off. When you get to the deepest part of it, you feel ultimate peace.
From the outside, Spencer seems to have it all. In 2013, he co-founded a successful startup in LA's Silicon Beach tech community, but that's also around the time he suffered his first major panic attack.
Seems like somebody looking at my life from the outside would think, like, what does that guy have to be depressed about? But it doesn't work like that. You have to look at your brain as almost like an operating system, and if that system crashes, it doesn't matter if you have all the comforts of life, you're still miserable.
And he's not alone. According to a 2015 study, entrepreneurs are twice as likely to suffer from depression.
These people really are playing a very high-risk game.
He should know, most of Dr. Mandel's patients come from the Silicon Beach tech community.
You know, when somebody has a job, they may not consider the job part of who they are. Professionals, entrepreneurs, creative types are their job.
If you're admitting to maybe having anxiety or being depressed, you're giving the impression that you're weak.
So Spencer tried prescription meds, but up to a third of patients don't respond to traditional antidepressants.
I felt like a zombie. I just thought, if this is going to be the rest of my life, like I'm out.
Then he heard about the ketamine infusions.
I got to a point where I just felt like I was at the end of my rope, and I didn't really have any other options.
It works on people that nothing else has worked.
Is that it's been rolled out into clinical usage too soon. And there's so much about the drug that we don't know in terms of how to use it, who responds to it, what the long-term consequences of taking the drug might be.
And the treatment still isn't FDA approved, which means many insurance carriers won't cover the cost. And then there's the potential for long-term dependency on a treatment that still isn't fully understood. But for Spencer, it's worth the risk.
I hope in the future that it's more accessible to more people, because I know a lot of people who are a lot worse off than I've ever been, and they could use it even more.
County, this is Charlotte County Cop Watch, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I have just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago, and so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too, because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheep up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Sheriff County Cop Watch with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me, and I'm sick of it, so I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave let's say actually yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where, at least I can do it, 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt-free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea too that we have is, if I got, some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here, and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations And more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. You know, 47,000 of you so far right now. You know, $1 a day. I mean, $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head. Help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.